Let's talk about the Fujinon 16 to 50 that was recently announced. I'm also going to talk about the 18 to 55 and throw it in the mix because why not? They're very similar and maybe it's not going to replace it, but if you own one or the other, or if you simply want to know which one to get, it is good to know what the differences are. I've been testing all this on a Fuji X-T5 that I have right here, simply because I wanted to get the 40 megapixel sensor as compared to the older 26 megapixels. The very first thing that I want to talk about is the internal zoom. This new guy here has an internal zoom. In fact, you see it moving internally as compared to the older 18 to 55 that sticks out like so. That is, to me, one of the biggest, most important changes. That also allows to make it weather sealed. I'm going to talk about that a little later, but it also makes it more compact, and the size you get is the size you get. There's not going to be any changes. Also, if you want to record video, you're not going to get any differences and you're not going to get any problems in terms of weight compensation on a gimbal. The 16 to 50 is quite small. It is as small as the 18 to 55. They're the same, basically around 7 centimeters when they're closed. But when you extend the 18 to 55, it goes all the way to 9.7 centimeters, which is almost 3 centimeters more than the 16 to 50. That is quite a difference. Not a huge difference, but it is still a big difference. The weight has also changed. We are at 240 grams for the 16 to 50 as compared to 310 grams for the 18 to 55. That is a difference of 70 grams. Not a huge, big deal, but if you're going to be shooting, for example, on the new X-T50 that I don't have here currently, it is going to make a difference. It's going to make your package smaller, lighter, and easier to bring around and take with you. Full frame wise, it is an equivalent to 24 to 76 millimeters as compared for the 18 to 55 to a 27 to 84. 84 being closer to 85, so it is better for portraiture. Not a huge difference, but that's better. The thing I like the most is the fact that the 16 to 50 goes down to 24 mil on a full frame equivalent, which is what I use when I shoot weddings, 24 to 70. So to me, this is a better option because it opens wider, and I usually tend to like being able to get wider, to get closer to people, and to use the 24 mil equivalent focal length. In terms of maximum aperture, you are going to lose a tiny bit of light on the new 16 to 50. In fact, it opens at f2.8 and f4.8. as compared to f2.8 to f4. So the difference is from f4 to f4.8, not a huge difference, but you are going to lose a little bit of light. And the minimum aperture is f22 for both these lenses. The minimum focusing distance is 24 centimeters for this new iteration as compared to 30 centimeters for the older one. So you're gaining 6 centimeters where you can get closer to your subject. The filter thread is the same with 58 millimeters for both these lenses. So if you already own filters of that size, you're going to be able to use them on the new lens. Weather resistance is a big deal for some. To me, it isn't, because I live in Switzerland, so I don't really care. I don't go in tropical, humid, sandy, or whatever environments. But if you are someone that needs that weather sealing, you'll be happy to know that the newer version has weather sealing. In fact, the fact that the zoom doesn't come out is probably one of the reasons why they could make it weather sealed. Now, you do have to use a body that's also weather sealed, such as, for example, the X-T4, X-T5, and so on. You can't use the newer X-T50 because that is not weather sealed, so it's not going to be fully weather sealing your sensor or your lens. Minor detail that to me is quite important, or it's interesting, is the fact that the zoom is way smoother. When you zoom with this thing, it's just buttery smooth. The older one, I could not do that. I literally could not. I have to force it to come in and out. So I don't know if it's just the model that I have here, but I don't think so. I think the fact that it's zooming internally makes it easier for the parts to move. Less things that are moving inside the lens, less things are sticking out of the lens, and therefore it is much easier when you're trying to zoom or to get a right composition to just zoom a little bit in and out without any effort. And I noticed that right away. And what about the image quality? I think it's great. It is sharp, it is good in terms of contrast, in terms of colors, in terms of reproduction. I tried this on the 40 megapixel sensor. I haven't tried it on the older 26 megapixel, but I'm sure it's good as well. And I mean, Fuji did a good job, like all the lenses they come out with, especially for the size, the weight, and the compactness of this little thing. The fact that it zooms internally, it is a lot of brownie points for Fuji on this new lens. Now, I did notice that it tends to get a little soft if you get to the minimum focusing distance and you open wide wide. If you close down a little bit to f2.8, f4, then it gets back to normal. So it's just when you're wide open, which I can kind of understand. I mean, it is a very small packaged lens, and there is a little bit of chromatic aberrations when you get to the minimum focusing distance, once again, wide open. These were both made in the Philippines, so no, they're not made in Japan. The price difference is quite steep between these two lenses. Here in Switzerland, you can find the older 18 to 55 model at around 400 to 450 bucks, as compared to 700 for the newer 16 to 50. So the difference of price is almost double. Now, I don't know in the US if it's still the case or not, but I can tell you the difference is huge between these two lenses. So you really have to consider if it's important to you to have those improvements that they brought to this newer model, the weather sealing, the fact that it zooms internally, things like that. Or if you don't really care and you take the older model so that you save a little bit of money and maybe you can spend it for another lens. That concludes my review of the 16 to 50mm from Fuji. I hope it answered some of the questions you had. If you have other questions, write it down in the comment section below. I'll answer it like always as soon as possible. If you like my content, consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my future videos. And until then, keep taking great shots with your Fuji camera. Cheers.